maybe someone already tuned in while we had our lovely climate change and COVID chat. But if you just tune in, welcome to Fire Chat on how technology is making fashion more sustainable. In the conversation today is me, Josefin, and Melissa, co-founder of Project Cece. And before we kind of go into the whole conversation and do a proper introduction of us, I thought we would just talk about the concept that is fairly new when it comes to technology and also fashion, which is fashion tech. And what really is it? So we know that all businesses that are created, we use social media, we use e-commerce platforms, but that's not really fashion tech. Fashion tech is when you take technology and you make it, uniquely. You make a twist, you make an innovation, you make it for hopefully good things and sustainable causes. So it can be that you implement artificial intelligence, blockchain, machine learning, or algorithms in a way where it hasn't been implemented before. So that's just a bit of the topics that covers fashion tech in general. And then I was thinking, so who I have to talk to today is the lovely Melissa from Project Cece. So will you tell us a bit on what you are doing?
Yes. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be part of this conference. So I'm Melissa Wijngaarden. I'm the co-founder of Project Cece. And Project Cece is a search engine for fair and sustainable fashion. So when we started looking for sustainable fashion, we discovered that there were a lot of amazing brands, but we've struggled to find them because these brands are often small. They don't have the marketing budgets that we were used to from the fast fashion industry. So we decided to create a solution on this. So Project Cece it collects the items from over 300 sustainable web shops in one place. And besides collecting the items, we're also giving information on why a product is sustainable. Like all the product information itself.
I think that's so amazing. So I think one of the reasons also why I'm moderating / part of the Fire Chat conversation. My name is Josefin. I have a startup in also the sustainable fashion tech community that carries my name, Josefin Liljeqvist. And what we create is animal protection within the fashion aspect, which is also very much a value-based market. And I think it's really interesting also, not just as an effect of COVID, which massively became a catalyst of change for sustainability and really the growth, but also ethical fashion. It's a growth we've seen for a couple of years. We know currently that the valuation of the ethical market is $6.3 billion US. And just in a year, it's estimated to grow and be $8.2 billion US. So it's a massive growth that is currently happening. And one of the targets on these markets are the Gen Zs, naturally also millennials, but the Gen Zs are the high growth markets at this moment. At this point, it's roughly 7 to 9% of global market shares. It's Gen Zs, and in just 10 years, they're estimated to be 35 to 40% of global market. And the Gen Zs are extremely socially informed. They're super digital. They're like living, breathing digital, and they are extremely value-based. Of course, it's an important customer group for Project Cece. So I'm really interested to kind of hear more about it because Project Cece has really innovated, and if I may say so, also really pioneered online shopping when it comes to shopping with your values. So how does it really work? And how does it work? And if they go online, if they haven't been online already, what will they see when they come to your website?
So when they visit our websites, it looks like a normal web shop. So you can see products and you can filter on different categories. But what makes us different from a normal web shop is that we also have like a filter where we check the claims, the sustainability claims that brands do. Because this is a huge topic in sustainable fashion, of course, as well, is that everyone is saying something about sustainability. When we started, if a brand said something about sustainability, you knew it was true and it was actually a good thing. But then, now sustainability is being a hot topic, which is, of course, on the one hand, is a good thing. On the other hand, it's also being used as a marketing technique only. So this is what we do at Project Cece. So we collect the items. You can filter on what you're looking for. And then on each product, we assign filters. So we have 5 different filters for different aspects of sustainability. And by using those filters, you can also better and more easily grasp what a brand actually is doing in terms of sustainability. So, for example, we have filters are produced in Europe. So when it's locally produced, because of course that saves the whole amount of traveling and reduces the greenhouse gas emissions, of course. Other filters are good cause. So, for example, you have a lot of brands that are giving back to communities. And that's not only like a one-off thing. Like they do have really cool actions. For example, one of my favorite brands is called Boukjen. It's a UK brand. And for instead of Black Friday, they did like a Green Friday deal where they would give 100% of their profits to a charity.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool. So they are also like not only they are in the way they are doing business, they are trying to become as sustainable as they can be, but also in what they do with the profits. They use it to amplify the impact they can make. So I really like that. Other filters are fair trade. So all of the brands on our website, of course, need to show where they produce, need to know where they produce. But you have some brands who are doing exceptionally well. And for example, if they have their own factories and open it in communities that are not necessarily that economic well developed. So if they open a factory there, what you see is that if they pay normal wages to the people there, that they spend it locally. And with that, they uplift this whole community. So it's really an impactful thing to do to create jobs and a more ethical fashion industry. Also, another filter is eco-friendly because there's a lot of innovation happening in the fashion industry, both in terms of materials, but also in production techniques. And this is something we want to highlight as well, that there's so many brands out there who are doing really cool things in the fashion industry. And then the last filter is vegan. This was one for my co-founder, Noor. She's the vegan hardcore hippie in our team. And she, of course, just wants to filter products that are available for vegans.
I think that's so amazing. And also it's the first time I've ever run into a brand where it's easy for you haven't been on site. Super easy. You go online and be like, oh, today I want to have a vegan product. Or if you always go vegan, you can just push it, into the website and all the products appear, which is a really easy, unique experience. And it's so easy to kind of shop with your values.
Yes.
I think something that's also, it's a tricky question in general when it comes to sustainability in fashion is like, what is sustainable fashion? Because in the end, we are, producing things, we're having people buying things, we are, we're consumers. In, I think, my brand, when I started, I sat down and I was like, what can we do that pioneers? And for us, it came down to animal protection, and to the other things, we just adhere to industry standards. But in Project Cece, you cover a lot of areas. What is for you the core of sustainability or sustainable fashion, and how did the conversations go?
Yeah, I think what sustainable fashion is is actually like quite a personal thing. So the one person may require that it's vegan, for example, and for me, I'm more focused on the people part. So of course, I wanted to have low impact on the environment, but the best piece of garment is then the one that's already in your closet, so you should be shopping at all. So I think it really differs, and what we're trying to do with Project Cece is try to make it really easy to find that piece of clothing that adheres to your aspects, and also to give a platform to all the brands who are making a change for the better. Because what we see, again, like they don't have the big marketing budgets to reach out to people with their message. So what we try to do is to combine that in one place and like reach out as a collective rather than going against each other.
That's amazing. You mentioned, platform. You've talked a bit on greenwashing, which is, when brands say they're supposed to be super sustainable, they do things that are actually not sustainable. They've been marketed in a specific way. How have you constructed your technology in a way that really elevates the brands you're working on? And also, how does the screening process works with the brands you are collaborating on? So consumers know that, okay, these are vetted for sure. How does the process look like?
So when a brand wants to apply to our website, we have this questionnaire that they have to fill in. And what we notice is that a lot of brands, they think that they are sustainable, but when you start asking questions, there's many where they don't have the answer on. So for example, a big issue in fashion is overproduction. We need to know at what scale you are producing, and also if you thought about what will happen with your clothes once someone stops wearing them. And there's like multiple approaches to that. So for example, you have brands who are using dead stock fabric, so they don't need new materials to create their collections, and in that sense they're only a part of the cycle. But there's also brands who use who really focus on using only non-mixed materials, because that's easier to recycle. So in that sense, they are trying to be part of the bigger circle.
I think that's a great screening process, and also I think depending on how you value sustainability, it's you get different answers, and you can also learn in a screening process as a team, and also as the person who created the screening process.
Yeah, definitely. What we also see a lot is that, like, by asking these questions, most brands that reach out to us, they want to have a positive impact on the world. So by asking those questions, and if at first they haven't thought about it, by asking it, they are looking for answers on how to improve on that point or in that aspect. So sometimes it happens that at first they're not good enough to be on our website, but then they start working on that specific point that we raised up, and then after a few months they are good enough. So that's really that's one of my favorite things to happen.
Oh, that's amazing. That's an amazing nudging technique, like the buzzword at the moment, like nudging better behavior. So that's an amazing way of doing it. I know that you're based in Amsterdam, which is kind of, if we're looking at Europe, it's like the buzzing city of fashion tech, but also if we look at the world, it's like one of the buzzing ones. We have, for example, the Fabricant. He created, for those who don't know, like the world's first, I think, digital fashion show. They work a lot with like virtual and digital worlds and fashion. And how do you, is there a lot of collaborations going on within the city? How do you see what kind of technical innovations are currently happening within the fashion area? And how is, the technology innovations happening in Amsterdam making it more sustainable fashion?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of happening, and especially in Amsterdam, it's really cool to see how much it's growing, and also how much the intention towards this is growing. So of course, one of our biggest things is the Fabricants. I'm a huge fan of them. You already introduced what they are doing, and we have on the consumer side, like the consumer facing part, we have things like the Fabricants, we have things like our website, like Project Cece, but also we ourselves collaborate with other startups in the Amsterdam ecosystem. So for example, we have a collaboration with Pixel.ai, and what they do is they provide an image recognition tool where you can just upload a picture of any outfit you like, and then we provide you with the sustainable alternatives. So this is all consumer-facing changes that we see. But also on the manufacturing side, I think there's happening a lot. For example, you have the Amsterdam municipality. They are invested in reflow projects, which is focusing on creating new ways on how to handle circularity within the supply chain, because a huge problem with fashion and also with sustainable fashion is that, like, what happens with the piece of clothing once you discard it. Like it used to be this black box that no one really knew what would happen, and you just thought it was good if you would throw it away in a clothing box. But now, like, there's more and more information popping up about what actually happens with your clothes. So for example, there's a huge market of secondhand clothing that's like, because of fast fashion is of really low quality, so it can't be used anymore or resold. And yeah, that is a huge problem that we also need to tackle, and it starts here. So the Amsterdam municipality is working with Reflow project and looking into ways on how to better recycle and how to better take care of that whole last part of the end of life of the clothes.
Yeah, I think that's so amazing. And also, you mentioned in the screening process that you actually divide into like natural fibers and synthetic ones, just because in the afterlife, if you have from one and the same source, it's much easier to recycle it and create it and have something new, which is a beautiful solution. You mentioned in the beginning that Project Cece was started kind of out of a, that something was lacking in the industry.
Yeah.
You talked a bit about, the amazing filters. We talked about the importance in the market that's a high growth market, that's value based, ethical based. But can you take us a bit around like how did the R&D process start? You've been in business for a couple of years. Like, how did it start, and what's the struggles when it came to finding the right technology, the right scalability solutions? Take us through that.
Yeah, so we started the project actually as students. So for me, I was really a shopaholic, and I used to buy as much as I could for as low pricing as I could. And then I saw the documentary The True Cost, which is for a lot of people in sustainable fashion, it's like the start. Mm-hmm. And then I started looking online, okay, what can I buy? And for me, it was just too spread out. I was really used to going to those big platforms and finding what I wanted right away. And with sustainable fashion, that just wasn't the case. Like, you really had to do effort. And then once you discovered something, you also had to do research on why exactly it was sustainable. And I was talking about this with my sister, and she did a minor programming at the time at the University of Amsterdam. And she was like, I can just build a website that collects all these items from all those different websites in one place. So this is how we started. We got her former roommate, Noor Veenhoven, on board. And it was just the three of us. Marcella would build the website, and Noor and me, we would research brands and put them on our website. And Marcella used like the minor programming, and she also used a Django for Girls course, to build the backend of her website. And then we just went online, and we were like, okay, we need such a website, but we don't need if it's a solution for others, both like if other consumers were waiting for such a website, but also for the brands themselves. And then quite soon it turned out it was. So then we had to figure a way on how to make a business model behind this, because once we noticed that there was many people who were looking for such a website, we needed to reach out to them. So we were pushing our student loans in there, but we didn't have a business model yet. So it was just like, waste money. So
that was kind of nursing R&D process. Like, take it, we're gonna figure it out.
Yeah. I think like a lot of startups start like that. Like, you see a problem and then you fix it, and then you have to think about the business behind it. And that turned out to be quite a struggle, because what we noticed was that in fashion already, brands have small margins, but in sustainable fashion, it's even worse. So we saw that a lot of people were, they didn't have the marketing budgets to spend money on something like our platform without seeing something directly in return. So then we built our own affiliate marketing model, which means that for every sale that comes through our website, we get a percentage. And then the hard part started, because then we had to reach out to all these brands and say like, hey, you were on this website for free, but now you have to pay. And then, a lot of them were actually quite positive in this. Also, like, what we're really trying to do is to collaborate with, to unify the what is happening in sustainable fashion. And I think that's this is something that brands really like about being part of our platform.
Yeah, and I think it also ties back to the importance of collaboration and doing good. That we have to all come together. We have to find a way to make the little parts kind of just grow into becoming something bigger over time. And over time, we have something that we can really scale, that is at its core good. Like we've built out a foundation. So when we scale, it's just getting better and better and better for the world.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, definitely.
in general, if you look at like outside of Amsterdam and outside like Project Cece, what kind of innovations and technologies do you see that are currently really positive when it comes to sustainable fashion?
So there's a lot of things happening with blockchain. So, for example, that you switch your supply chain and put it all on the blockchain, so it's more transparent and easy to trace. Like on the one hand, I think that's going to be a real big thing, but on the other hand, it's still like how it's implemented right now is that it's still dependent on people putting data in, and like this is the part in the fashion industry that's just so hard, especially for the bigger brands. Like the brands we work with are often small and they started with sustainability from their core. But if you are already operating and already have a huge supply chain, then it's so hard to make that shift towards sustainable fashion and also ethical fashion. And I think this, if we are able to solve this problem where the data inputs is really dependent on humans filling that in, I think that's going to be huge in establishing a more fair supply chain.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think those are so important. Like also because it makes an openness, it makes an awareness, and also you as a customer can always go in. You can check out the supply chain in a way where people can. It's impossible to do greenwashing because if something is bad in there, you give it to the customer. But I think what we as customers, if we put on our customer hat, have to think of in sustainability, and especially in fashion, is that if someone is doing a mistake or it's not, the revolution is taking a bit longer than we want it to, then we cannot critique. We have to say like, oh, but you're trying, we're improving, and we have to keep sharing them on that are doing something good, so they kind of take the hard struggle and go all the way.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree on that. I think there's this one Dutch brand that's really good at this. It's called Ace and Tate. They do like glasses, and they're really transparent. Like, they are actually, compared to the industry standards, they are producing quite sustainable. But instead of claiming that they are a sustainable brand, they are telling what they still want to improve and what still needs to be improved. And I think that's really, really cool that they are so open about it.
That's a powerful branding model, kind of like Patagonia does with you don't buy our things because you don't need them.
Definitely.
So I'm thinking we have roughly 5 more minutes until we kind of round up for a little Q&A. So if you summarize, like, what is happening right now in Project Cece, and if any in the audience are having an innovation within fashion, could you give like 3 words of wisdom in designing products in fashion tech that are supposed to do good over time?
Yeah, so what we're doing with Project Cece, I think it's also an answer on one of the questions I see in the chat. But we just launched our European-wide platform, because usually before we were active in the Netherlands, Germany, and the UK. And then we saw on the UK website a lot of people from all over Europe come in, but it's not feasible because they had UK web shops and it's so expensive with taxes and everything. So last week we launched our European-wide platform, projectcc.com. But also we're working together with C3, which is a carbon offsetting company. And so we now use it only for when someone subscribes to our newsletter, we plant a tree. But also like we're going to extend this collaboration where they are going to calculate like our total impact as a company and how we can offset that.
That's amazing. I love those kind of tools where you can plug in and just get a great overview. So in these years, if when it comes to like things you've learned, what are like 3 wisdoms, or maybe one more that you're like, oh, this is a good thing to avoid or maybe to think of?
I think what we see happening a lot in sustainable fashion is that people are like, oh, I want to make impact in the fashion industry, I'm going to start another brand. But the world actually doesn't need more clothes. We need to find more creative ways on how to deal with our current supply and current clothes that are already there, but also how we can improve the brands that are already there in that sense. So I feel like a lot of people are starting brands which are quite simple, but still focused on this consumption pattern. Like we need more. Whereas I think a lot of people could also, instead of starting their own brand, help others and see what they can do in existing brands.
Yeah, I think that's so important, because it's especially if you tie back to kind of what we're doing in our startup, is the same, that we're like, we were searching all over, like, is anyone else doing animal welfare? Is anyone else doing our niche? Because if they do, we should collaborate with them. We should not create our own thing.
Yes, yeah.
I think if you start something new, it really needs to add a value, and needs to really solve an issue, because otherwise it's better to collaborate with someone who's doing it than just improving their solution.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think we are in the last part, where I was told that we were going to like round off. So we had we're going to have one question here, or maybe two, depending on like the length of the question and answer, and then we are moving over to the 2D virtual world to continue the Q&A. So let's see here. Yeah, well, okay. We have also a question on Torbjörn. Sorry, it is the carbon emission, but also maybe we can take that broader, because you answered that one. Is there any other way you work with environmental impact data, or are you planning to take a wider spectrum over time? I hope I build on your question here.
Yeah, no, I think this is something really important, but it's also something we're struggling with quite a while, because like on the one hand, we want to quantify the impact we make, and like in one product section, that's quite easy to do. So for example, we do per product category, we can see how much has been bought and what the savings are compared to like the average of the industry. So in that sense, we can quantify it, but to make it more general, it's quite hard, because what usually happens with the tools that we saw for up until now was that they try to match it towards something that's like, for example, water savings or CO2 emissions. And I think it's too less detailed yet to use in such a way for a platform. But it's something like, if anyone has a really cool tool that is front running in this, I'd be happy to discover them. But it is something that we're looking at, but have not yet found a solution for.
Yeah, that's also the way with a lot of innovations. I was talking to a food tech entrepreneur earlier today, and they mentioned when they started their brand back in 2015, there was a lot of infrastructure that was lacking around food tech, which created difficulties in growth at that stage. But if we're looking at it now, there's so many tools and infrastructures, and it's really grown into a community. So it's easier to scale and create. So I think it's something that, on the core of collaboration, but it's like, if someone has something great, then we all should use that kind of tool and figure out a way to together be more impactful. And that company will also have more data and better insight. So it's a win-win on the whole supply chain.
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
So let's round off, because we are on 12:05, which says we should round off.
Yes.
So thank you so much for taking the time. Lovely to have us in Fire Chat, and we will see everyone in the 2D world, which is if you go into the chat, Alexandra had up there put in a link, so you just put there in. If you haven't created an avatar, create one with like a lovely outfit. I'm completely pink. And we will see each other in there.
Yes, thanks so much.
Thank you.